Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're all doing fantastic. Thanks for hanging out on this relatively lazy April Sunday afternoon. I hope you're all having a great weekend. Thanks for hanging out today. So we're back in Alaska. Once again, I've had a keen desire to indulge my slant alpha / slant whiskey kick and do some old school navigating. So we're back in the PMDG DC-6 doing some Eversair cargo Freightdog operations today. And so we're going to be flying a quick, fun, short milk run up the Alaskan Panhandle from here in Ketchikan, Alaska, up to the Alaskan capital of Juneau. So that's going to be a ton of fun. Let's very quickly here take a look at our game plan for the evening. If I can finagle this, give me a second here. There we go. Just going to pull up our fancy new pre-flight scene here, and let's talk through our game plan. James 2, Miguel de Oliveira, prepared flyer. Blomes 1212, fly RC. Anybody else is in chat? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for hanging out today. Feel free to drop a quick howdy if you haven't already. Blomes, no worries at all, Blomes. Enjoy work. Thanks for chiming in, though. Do appreciate it. I do need to follow up with you, Blomes, at some point about doing a little shared cockpit stuff, but we'll follow up soon, my friend. You take care. And Fly RC, I'm glad to hear that. That's the best I can hope for as a streamer. All right, folks, so here's the game plan on our fancy little iPad here. We're going to be flying, as I said, up the Alaskan Panhandle from here in Ketchikan, Alaska, up to Juneau, Alaska. Pretty short flight that's going to take us about an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on what the winds are doing once we get up to altitude. We're going to be flying some old school slant alpha operations like I mentioned, so I don't have my fancy GTN 650 unit installed in the DC-6 tonight. We're just going to be navigating super old school using VORs and radials, so let's talk through what that looks like. So we're going to be taking the Scal 2 departure out of Ketchikan up to the DOOZI fix, and at that point we're going to pick up the Annette Island VOR 309er radial outbound from Annette Island on the Victor 317 airway all the way up to Level Island. We'll track the 128 radial inbound to Level Island about midway between DOOZI and Level Island. And once we get to Level Island, we're going to continue on the Victor 317 airway to Sisters Island. And once we get to Sisters Island, we'll expect the LDA X-ray runway 8 approach into Juneau. Should be a ton of fun. I had a quick chance to look at the METAR at Juneau earlier, and it looks like the ceilings were dropping. And there was snow showers in the forecast, and as well, it looks like the visibility was dropping as well, so it could be super interesting once we get into Juneau later. We'll see just how marginal the conditions are, or if the conditions have hopefully improved. We'll find out. The other thing I wanted to do real quick here before we finish with our pre-flight is quickly pull something up here that I thought could be super interesting to you folks on stream as well, and that is get a quick short weather briefing / synopsis directly from Anchorage Center in the real world. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but every day prior to every shift change, every Arctic or Air Traffic Control Center in the US puts out a pre-duty weather briefing that's intended for use by air traffic controllers at that center. So I thought it'd be really cool actually to take a quick gander and listen in to the pre-duty weather briefing, the most recent one from Anchorage Center. So let's listen into that real quick.
This is at 12:50 p.m. Anchorage CWSU weather briefing updated April 11, 2021. Here are the PIREPs needed for this afternoon and tonight. Here's a hazard summary for the state. Magadan Sigmet 5, severe turbulence, surface to 15,000, valid till 22Z. No change in any volcano status. Satellite shows low pressure over the central bearing with a frontal boundary along the west coast. Here's what it looks like at the surface. Statewide radar showing snow along the west coast and southwest coast, as well as over south central and over the Gulf. Keen-eye radar showing light snow over the area, and it's all moving off to the north. Occasional moderate icing over the central part of the state and the northern Gulf from 6 to 16,000. 5,000 foot winds. Low-level turbulence over the central part of the state, surface to 10,000. Isolated severe in the red below 6,000. 18,000 foot winds and 30,000 foot winds. With high-level turbulence over the western Bering, 25 to 33,000. And over the Arctic, central part of the state and Gulf, 25 to 38,000. Hubs this afternoon and tonight: low IFR in Nome, IFR in King Salmon and Kodiak, marginal VFR in Bethel, everywhere else VFR, and the 5-day forecast.
All right, there we go. So just thought that was useful to quickly go through that 2-minute sort of weather briefing there. Once again, it's pretty high level, gives you a synopsis for the entire coverage area that Anchorage Center covers. But I just thought it's super useful. As you can tell, no rail SIGMETs, AirMets, anything for the Panhandle in Alaska, which we're going to be flying over tonight, or this afternoon rather. But that being said, there were snow flurries forecasted, at least as per the last METAR, or not forecasted rather, but snow flurries reported in the last METAR. So we'll see what the conditions are looking like once we get closer to Juneau today. By the way, in case you're wondering where to find these are super useful. Just search for whatever the control center is, right? Anchorage or Oakland, whatever it is, in Google. Search for Oakland Center pre-duty weather briefing, or Anchorage Center pre-duty weather briefing, Albuquerque, you name it, and you'll find a nice little video with like a 2-minute synopsis of the weather for the entire coverage area of that center. And sorry folks, let me catch up on chat here real quick. James D, hello, how's it going? Prepared Flyer, howdy to you. Anchor Jam, good to see you, my friend, hope you're doing well. James 2, hey, no worries at all. I'm glad you caught it, even though you couldn't say hi, but I hope you're doing great there, James. And Miguel, I am not. I'm still using version 4.5. I don't have an urgent need personally to switch to version 5. I'm pretty happy with version 4.5. And the other thing is, the other problem with switching right now is, you know how much effort it takes to, to get everything just right and prepared, right? Installing add-ons, getting your settings right. I just don't have the time right now to go through all of that for V5. So I'm pretty happy with V4.5 right now. One other thing I wanted to show you here real quick, by the way, the Oakland Center pre-duty weather briefing is especially usul because
pre-duty weather.
Not only is it kind of covering sort of my sort of like real world area, although I don't really use this for real world flying, honestly, but one of the nice things about this weather briefing is they actually include like a synopsis for the entire country. Let's see if I can find that segment real quick.
Back in the States, severe thunderstorms continue over the Florida Peninsula. Hazardous weather has caused departure delays up to 30 minutes at Miami, up to 2.5 hours at Fort Lauderdale, and up to 4 hours at Teterboro. That's it for now. Have a great shift.
So it's stuff like that. It's very, very useful if you're looking to get like a quick 2-minute summary of what's going on in the country. I strongly recommend checking out these weather briefings on the national, from the National Weather Service. Super, super useful. All right, so we talked through our flight plan, we talked through our game plan, we got everything sorted out. Let's go ahead and hop back in the sim here, and we'll get everything set up. All right. So once again, right, we're flying this beautiful old retro-themed Everett's Air Cargo livery. This is probably my favorite livery on the DC-6. I think it just looks absolutely fantastic. Just beautiful. I just love that retro theme. Everything about this livery, the colors, the text, it just looks absolutely amazing. All right, let's hop in the cockpit here, and we'll go ahead and have our we've got a 3-person flight crew, obviously, in real life. In an airplane like this, you actually need a flight engineer who sits in this little jump seat back here. And of course, you need a first officer and a captain. The nice thing about the PMDG DC-6 is it simulates a virtual flight engineer. So I'm going to pull up the virtual flight engineer station and have my virtual flight engineer go through the 4 start flows. So he's going to go ahead and get everything set up for our start, including, I think, getting rid of all the peripherals and closing all the doors and all that kind of stuff. So we'll let him go through the process, and once that's done, we'll hop into the aircraft and do our departure briefing, and we'll get going shortly.
Fuel and fluids.
That's right, James. Yeah, we did fly this a few months ago, if I remember correctly. Both in Alaska and as well in Antarctica, believe it or not. That was a fun stream in Antarctica. By the way, speaking of the Antarctica stream, I realized, going back to that now, that I misspoke about something. I initially, for some reason, thought that they flew the DC-6 in Antarctica, the US Antarctic program, way back in the 50s. And the reason I thought that is because I found like this super old black and white picture of a DC-6 flying out of Christchurch, where the US Antarctic program has a base, right? It turns out that DC-6 was just used to ferry personnel between the mainland US and New Zealand. But they actually flew a super constellation between New Zealand and McMurdo Station in Antarctica. So, contrary to what I said in that stream, it turns out that they never actually flew the DC-6s to Antarctica. They flew the super constellations there. Oh well. Anyway, it was still fun flying the DC-6 there. Okay, I think we're more or less ready to start here. I'm going to go ahead and set up my radios before we move any further, and then we'll do our departure briefing and we'll get going. So the first radio I want to tune in is the localizer for the Scal 2 departure. So I'm going to go up top here to our super old school radios. Once again, you may notice the absence of my fancy GTN 650 unit. I figured we'll go true old school here and not even give in to the potential of cheating later. so we're going to go super old school. So I'm going to tune in the localizer. We'll talk about this in a second. In nav 1, and then in standby nav 1, I'm going to tune in the Annette Island VOR 117.1. So that's going to get tuned in there. Awesome. And then I'm going to tune in the Annette Island VOR on nav 2 as well. There we go. And then in standby nav 2, I'm going to tune in the Level Island VOR 116.5. 116.5. There we go. That's done. Fantastic. Okay, 109.3 in active nav 1, 117.1 in active nav 2. Fantastic. And I'm going to set my OBS here. Oh my god, we actually have a super old school OBS that I got to worry about. So no HSI on this thing. I gotta be aware exactly what radial I've got tuned in at any point. Okay. So I'm going to tune in the, let's see, for the Scal 2, it doesn't really matter because it's a localizer, but I'm going to tune in the northwest course of the localizer, which is 295. And we'll talk about why here in just a hot second. And I can tune in, there's no OBS for nav 2, unfortunately. So I'm just going to have to go off the bearing indicator there to pick up the radial I need to pick up later. But I think I got everything set up for now, so fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and do our pre-departure briefing here, and we'll get going shortly. We'll start up right after. Yeah, Anchor Jam, I am looking forward to this. It's going to be interesting for sure. All right, let's go ahead and pull up the iPad on screen. Give me a second here. All right, here we go. All right, hopefully y'all can see this. All right, let's do our departure briefing here real quick. All right, this is going to be a flaps 10 takeoff. Correction, flaps 20, I think, actually. Off of runway 29er. Let's take a look at the weather reported at Ketchikan real quick. Papa Alpha Kilo Tango. Winds are pretty much calm. It's 100 at 4. The two runways we have, by the way, it's one runway technically, but the runway directions that are available to us are 11 and 29. I'm going to take off on 29 because it's a lot easier for me. Winds are essentially calm. I'm going to take off on 29 with a slight tailwind component. I've got the length runway length for it, so that's fine. Visibility is really good, 10 statute miles, few clouds reported 2,500, ceilings reported, overcast 4,400, temperature 04, dew point -1, and altimeter is 3052 at Ketchikan. Alright, fantastic. And let's take a look at our V speeds here. Takeoff weight, about 81,000 pounds. So V1 is going to be 88. We're going to rotate at 98, and V2 is going to be 103. And let's take a look here real quick at where we are. So we're located here at essentially what I think is supposed to be the cargo apron in real life. This is a super interesting airport, by the way. It's built on a plateau, and you can tell most of the terrain here had to be landscaped and man-made, so to speak, right? Look at how much the taxiways are sloped, because the runway is actually located above the main ramp. So the main ramp of the terminal and the tower, it's back there. You see it straight up ahead? It's over there. And that's well below the actual runway right there. So we're actually going to be taxiing uphill and backtracking there to 29er, and we're going to depart on 29er. So that's going to be our plan. Yeah, it's a super fun airport. How's it going there, Adam? Good to see you. Fly RC, that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. Tailwinds do not help you take off faster. Headwinds help you take off faster. Tailwinds are bad for takeoff, but honestly, a 4-knot tailwind is not bad at all. Especially with this airplane, we're going to be just fine. But I'm not recommending that practice in real life, right? Always do your takeoff distance calculations before taking off in any winds. But anyway, we're just going to taxi via Alpha, backtrack 29er, and depart on 29er. During the departure, any malfunctions before V1, engine failure, fire, loss of control, wind shear, aircraft unsafe to fly, etc. We're going to bring the throttles to idle, apply reverse if you have it, brake, and bring the airplane to a stop on the runway. Any malfunctions after V1, we're going to continue airborne, deal with the problem airborne. Pending that, we're actually going to be doing a pretty interesting departure today, the Scowl 2 departure. This is actually a charted obstacle departure procedure. If you folks remember, we've talked about obstacle departure procedures plenty on my channel and past live streams. I just love obstacle departure procedures because it takes a little bit of mental work to kind of figure out exactly what the procedure is telling you to do. This is a charted obstacle departure procedure, so it's a lot easier to interpret. But essentially, this is kind of a super interesting departure procedure that has us departing on 29. And the nice thing about this departure procedure is it pretty much sets us up on the airway that we want to take up to Juneau today. The only other option that we had, by the way, in terms of a sit today was the Ketchikan 6 off of runway 11. And the reason I did not want to do that is because that will have us departing southeast and end up at Annette Island. So that'll add probably 30 miles, 40 miles potentially to our route distance, which is a lot in an airplane that's kind of slower like the DC-6. So figured since the wind was not so bad, and we had the takeoff distance length available to us, we're going to depart on 29 in the Scowl 2. So essentially we're going to climb to assigned altitude on the localizer back course. Actually, it's not the back course, the localizer northwest course on a course of 295 to intercept and join the Annette Island 309er radial to DOOZI and the Victor 317 airway before proceeding on course. So very, very straightforward. For runway 29, the takeoff minimums are 803 with a minimum climb of 275 feet per nautical mile to 5,300 feet, or standard with a minimum climb of 410 feet per nautical mile to 3,000 feet. Okay. Just looking through to see if there's anything else I need to keep in mind. DME is the only thing that's required for this departure. So I think we got everything we need. That's basically it, folks. That's essentially what that departure looks like, and that's our departure briefing. Let's go ahead and hide the iPad away, and we'll go ahead and start up these amazing double WASP engines. So I don't know how many of you were on our stream on Thursday night where we flew the Corsair. Believe it or not, the engines here The double WASP engines here are more or less the same engines, with some slight differences here and there, obviously. But they're more or less the same engines as in the F4U Corsairs. So as opposed to having just one of those, of course, you now got 4 of these engines. So count them, 4, right? And each one of these engines has 18 cylinders. It's 2 rows of 9 cylinders, right? 9 cylinders in the front, another 9 right behind them in the back, and total output from each one of these engines is 2,000 horsepower. So this is this airplane has 8,000 angry horsepower, or angry horses just raring to take it airborne, right? So let's go ahead and start up these engines. We're going to start them up in the sequence of 3, 4, 2, and 1. That's going to be our start sequence today. So let me just check to make sure the flight engineer has done everything I wanted them to do with it before start. Indeed he has. Mixture is an auto. Start selector for engine 3, and let's turn on the fuel boost pump for number 3. And as always, right, with these old radials, for those of you who've seen our prior DC-6 streams, as always, starting this or getting them started can be a little tricky sometimes. So I got to figure out the exact sort of sequence in which to prime and boost the engine, all that stuff, and it might take a few tries before we get it right, but let's give it a shot. So let's go ahead and start them up.
3.
And the flight engineer is counting
6.
the blades. I'm going to prime.
9.
I'm going to boost.
12.
And it doesn't look like that worked. Yeah, so we're going to have to try that again. It's always a good idea to give the starter a rest for 30 seconds or so. So while the starter's taking a rest here, let's go ahead and start up number 4. So I'm going to turn on the fuel boost pump for number 4. Get the mixture to auto on number 4. Get the max to both on number 4. And let's try and crank number 4 while we wait for the starter to cool down on number 3. So start.
3. 6. 9. 12.
And let's see if we get lucky on number 4. I think we will. You see that little cloud of smoke there? That's the oil that's coating that big radial engine being burnt off as the engine comes to life. So fantastic. I think I've figured out the cadence to start these engines. Usually if you figured out the cadence on one of these engines, that same cadence should work in terms of when you turn those switches, right? Start, prime, and boost for the other 3 engines as well. So that's fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and start up number 3 now. Once again, mixture to auto, max to both, boost pump to low on number 3, and let's go ahead and start up number 3. Start.
3.
3 blades.
6.
Prime.
9.
And boost.
12.
There we go. That's awesome. Number 3 is coming to life. Beautiful. That's right, Anchor Jam. There's actually a couple of operators that fly these. So, Average Air Cargo is still a real-world freighter, freight operator, cargo airline based up here in Alaska. So they fly to all kinds of destinations in Alaska. You know, pretty much all over Alaska. You know, the Panhandle, all the way up to like Nome, Fairbanks, pretty much everywhere around Alaska they fly freighter operations using a combination of different airplanes. Actually, they fly DC-6s. They actually fly MD-80s as well, believe it or not. And I think for a while they flew DC-9s as well. All right, so good start on number 3. Let's go ahead and start up number 2. Boost pump to low. Forgot to get my mixture to auto there. There we go. And let's get the max to both, and we're ready to start up number 2. Once again, I'm going to use the same cadence as I did before.
6.
Prime and
9.
boost.
12.
Yeah, totally, Adam. This pedestal is something else for sure. There we go. Listen to that engine come to life there. I love the sound of these old radials. PMDG did an amazing, masterful job of modeling the sounds on these old radials. Fantastic. All right. Let's go ahead and see if we can get number 1 started up, and then we should be good to go. Okay, mixture to auto, reg there. Fuel boost pump to low, engine selector to number 1, max to both, and let's go ahead and start up number 1.
3, 6, 9, 12.
There we go, number 1 coming to life. Oh man, there we go. Looks like we got a good start on all 4 engines. That is fantastic. All right, we'll let those engines warm up here. I forgot to get my lights on. Beacon is on, position lights to steady, fantastic. And let's take a look at our outside air temperature here for a second. Free air temperature is showing between 0 and 40. So let's take a look up top here at the windshield heat. I'm going to turn that on to 0 to 10 there. Okay, fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and have our flight engineer go through the after start flows. All right, Night Shadow, hey, aloha to you, Night Shadow. Haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're doing fantastic. Just trying to catch up through chat here. Anchor Jam, no worries at all. Absolutely, Anchor Jam. We had a few folks join us. We had Adam, Blomes, Absolutely Aviation, and Joe, who used to be in the Marines, working on the V-22 Osprey and other helicopters in the Marines in real life. He joined us as well, actually, and he was regaling us with stories of, at least as best as he could, you know, given that he was busy flying a virtual helicopter at the same time. He was regaling us with stories of his time working on the Osprey. so it was a fun time on Thursday night flying those helicopters for sure. Yeah, I'd love to do that again at some point in the near future. All right, I think we're ready to go here. We'll start taxiing out pretty shortly. I'm doing great, Night Shadow. Thank you for asking. All right, let me quickly here go through my checklist real quick. Okay. So fuel boost pumps on low. Oh wait, all that stuff is done for the start. Throttle, we're going to idle between 800 to 1,000 RPM. There we go. Hydraulic system pressure, we're good. Engine and supercharger oil temperature is greater than minimum. And we're all ready to go here to start taxiing out. Fantastic. All right, folks. Let's start moving. Parking brake released. I'm going to go ahead and hide the yoke there so it's not in my way. And I'm going to set my elevator trim to like 2 degrees up. There we go. About there should do it. If you're wondering exactly what the elevator trim is, position is like right there. So about 2 degrees up should do it for the takeoff. And I want to make sure, by the way, that my autopilot is set up properly in the event that I need to engage it during the climb out, so we're all good to go. Okay, fantastic. So let's start taxiing to 29 here. We'll backtrack and we'll taxi out. Man, this is fun. Of course, I can pop open the window there, breathe in some of that fresh Alaska Panhandle air there, and we'll taxi uphill here. Let me go ahead and have the iPad kind of showing on the side there so you guys can see what's going on as we taxi out. Castillos, how's it going? Castillos, watch out for those all caps. Sorry about that. Streamlabs just does not like caps there, Castillos, but you're not too late. We're just about to get to park, so it's all good. All right, what did I want to do? I wanted to get my flight engineer to do the before takeoff flows. All right, I'm going to get my nav lights into the strobe mode, so to speak. There we go, so the nav lights are flashing, and we'll backtrack on 29er here.
Down, forward, pressure quantity checked. Okay.
Night Shadow, I am using a Cytec X52 Pro, so both the throttle and joystick, of course, and And I love the side tech because it's got so many buttons. My flight engineer closed the window for me already. And I've also got the CH Pro rudder pedals. And that's pretty much it. You know, I do use an Xbox controller just to control the external camera, the static camera rather, in ChasePlane, and the drone camera in Misfizz, but that's really about it. So those are the three peripherals I have. And it works pretty well for me, you know, so... Oh, please don't call it that, Castillos. I don't do lessons or classes here. That's not what I do. I'm just somebody enjoying a hobby, having fun, and glad to have folks that are willing to hang out and enjoy the same. That's all I do. By the way, I'm not online on VATSIM or anything. I probably should have asked at the start of the stream in case anybody wanted to join me, but I figured I'd stay offline. And that actually reminds me, just to have some background audio here, let's go ahead and have Anchorage Center kind of playing in the background there, just so we have some kind of background ATC. And let me know in case it gets too loud or anything like that. But I'll have that playing just so we have some ambient kind of ATC in lieu of VATSIM. Okay, we're all ready to go here. Going to pull up the Scal 2 departure. So once again, we're just going to fly the localizer northwest course 295 until we intercept the Annette Island 309er radial outbound to the DOOZI fix. At that point, we'll be on the Victor 317 airway, and we can continue on that radial until we're halfway to Level Island. I'm going to set my DME mode to nav2, that way I know my distance from Annette Island, because I don't think I have a DME readout for the localizer. By the way, we're flying on the reverse course, not the back course. We're flying in reverse on the localizer, which means, what does that mean? What does that mean for all of you old school navigation? Actually, what does that mean for all of you folks out there that know how to fly on localizers? It means reverse sensing, right? Oh boy, I hate reverse sensing. So anytime I see the needle deflect to the left or right, I'm going to fly the opposite direction in order to recenter the needle. That's what that means. Okay, I think we're ready to go here. So let's go ahead and have our flight engineer set everything up for takeoff. Exactly, Castillos. Okay, flight engineer is getting us ready for takeoff here by setting the throttles for takeoff. I'm going to hold the brakes until I've got full takeoff power set. That's the typical procedure I understand it in the DC-6. So engine stabilized at 30 inches. Cowl flaps being set about 4 degrees, I think, for the takeoff. And now full power being applied for takeoff. All right, here we go. And this airplane is raring to go, man. Those radials are...
Full power set.
There we go, full power set, releasing the brakes, and we're gonna start rolling. Once again, V1 was 88, gonna rotate at 98, and V2 is 103. I'm gonna climb out at 140 knots until 500 feet AGL. There's 80 knots. V1, rotate. V2, positive rate, gear coming up. And you usually kind of climb out in a relatively, you know, at a relatively shallow angle to speed the airplane up so you can clean it up. Lots of drag in the current configuration, as you can imagine, with those flaps at 20 degrees there. All right, just going to fly the localizer northwest course there. And I'm sorry, folks, I'm going to stay inside the cockpit for the most part here, as opposed to giving you the views I usually like giving you on our departure.
flaps going up.
Okay, flaps coming up. Of course, we're so close to the localizer itself there that obviously the needle is super sensitive. It will get a lot less sensitive as we go outbound here. Of course, I gotta remember this is not an HSI. It's an old school OBS, so I gotta adjust accordingly. Okay, we're gonna climb out at our en route climb speed of about 160 knots. That's good there. Gonna trim it out. And I'm gonna fly a heading of about 305 there until I can intercept that localizer once again. Not doing the best job here of getting on that localizer northwest course. Okay, there we go. Needle's coming back in. Gonna turn slightly left there. And gonna try and trim the airplane out. I'm gonna hand fly this for a bit here. By the way, I totally forgot to set my pressurization there. We're gonna be cruising at 14,000 feet. There we go. That's kind of important to set. There's just so much to handle with this bird. Aaron Dowden, how's it going? There's no PMDG 727, right? There's the FlyJSim 727 and X-Plane, but there's no PMDG 727. If you mean the 737, well, they don't have a flight engineer for that one. It would be nice to see PMDG do a 727, although to be honest, I'd much rather FlyJSim bring the 727 to Misfis. There we go. About 3 minutes after departure, we're finally on that localizer there. I'm not doing the best job of slant alphaing tonight. Okay, here we go. Finally getting on it. There we go. Okay, we're just going to track this outbound until I can pick up the 309er radial from Annette Island. So I'm watching the bearing needle for Annette Island. And once again, I got to remember to fly the reverse of whatever the needle is deviating from, or whatever the deviation of the needle is. There we go. In order to recenter the needle. This is super tricky, I gotta tell you. This is really, really tricky. Not too bad so far. Not too bad. It does have an autopilot. It's a very, very rudimentary Sperry autopilot, though. It's a very, very rudimentary autopilot. Okay, needle coming back in there, and just to help myself out here, folks, at this point I'm going to get the autopilot engaged, so gyropilot engaged, and the mechanical connect handle for the autopilot is engaged as well. Fantastic. And now I'm going to take a load off by letting the autopilot do a little bit of work for me. Okay, needle coming back in there. We're going to turn right to get back on that localizer 295 course. And there we go. This is a very, very rudimentary autopilot. It's incredibly rudimentary. Oh man, that sounds really good there, Night Shadow. I need to go to my local pokey place and get some pokey. I love some tuna poke. That's so good. All right, and I'm going to increase my rate of climb a bit here. Fantastic. Okay, I'm watching that bearing needle starting to indicate closer and closer to the 309 radial out of Annette Island there. So once that bearing indicator for VOR2 points at 309er, that's when I'm going to track the 309er radial outbound from Annette Island. So that's my plan. Okay, at this point I want to turn slightly, I think, left. There we go. Just to recenter that needle there on the localizer. This is a this is a departure procedure that keeps you super busy, really keeps you on your toes. It's a lot of fun though. Okay, we're climbing up to 16,000 feet. At some point, by the way, I want to check on my pressurization system up here and make sure that's doing what it's supposed to. Indeed it is, I think. Although, why are we indicating a descent there? Okay, cabin altitude, I think 6,000 should do it. There we go. Okay, there we go. And that's about 309er radial there. So let's go ahead and go back. Actually, gyroscope mode should do it. Let's go ahead at this point and swap frequencies to the Annette Island VOR. And I'm going to tune in the 309er radial on the OBS there. So selecting that radial there. There we go. And at this point, since we're on that radial, let's go into nav mode and the autopilot, and the autopilot now will automatically track that radial outbound. So that is fantastic. So let me explain what just happened. So we flew not very well due to my own sort of ineptitude here. We flew the localizer northwest course outbound until we picked up the 317, or correction, the 309er radial outbound from Annette Island. On a frequency for Annette Island is 117.1, and now we're tracking outbound in the 309er radial. So that's what's happening right now. All right, awesome. Pretty happy with what I'm seeing. So we're just going to continue on this radial, because this radial, once we get to DOOZI, just becomes the 317, the Victor 317 airway, and we're just going to follow that outbound for the next 98 miles until we get to Level Island. So that's our plan. All right, awesome. Night Shadow, whereabout do you live in New Jersey? Or if I remember correctly, you're from the New York area, right? But it's super cool to see that you're getting Poke Places there as well. You know, I get a feeling now that Hawaiian Poke, it's one of these food fads, right? There's all kinds of Poke Places popping up everywhere in the country now. Everywhere you look, almost every major city now has a Poke Place. Okay, I'm going to set my windshield heat now between minus 40 and 0. So I'm going to set that. Oh, you're in Virginia, Night Shadow? Super cool. Are you close to DC in Virginia? Or is it like Norfolk, that area? There we go. Lux5678, how's it going? Yes, a PMDG 707 would be freaking amazing. I agree with that. Okay, let's check on things up top here. I think we're doing good. Pressurization system is doing what it's supposed to. That is fantastic. Okay, I'm happy with everything I'm seeing. I'm going to keep an eye on that cabin pressure differential there and make sure that doesn't go too close to red line. But I'm pretty happy with everything I'm seeing so far. Once we get to our critical altitude, by the way, obviously, as you can imagine, we've got these old piston radials here, right? As you gain altitude, and the air becomes less dense and thinner, it becomes a lot harder for these engines to sustain power. So, of course, you know, the Wright Engine Company, in their infinite wisdom, decided to include a supercharger. So we do have a high blower setting that I'm going to be switching to at the critical altitude to engage that, which is about 13,000 feet. So at 13,000, we'll move our supercharger controls to the high blower setting, and that'll help us continue climbing to our cruising altitude of 16,000. We're through about 10,400 feet here and continuing to climb. And we're over the clouds. Man, this looks great. Virginia Beach, says Night Shadow. Awesome. Yeah, Aaron Dowden, so in regard to what Castillos was saying, exactly, you could use FS2 Crew, but then again, I'm not sure if you were talking about the PMDG 737 or something else, right? because they don't make a 727. But if you're talking about the 737, FS2 Crew is really, really awesome for that. I think I've only got the NGX, not the NGXU, but I'm pretty sure FS2 Crew is available for both the NGXU and the NGX. So there you go. Okay, folks, I'm going to go ahead and move away from the iPad there. Don't need to have that on screen anymore since we're done with our departure. But I'm going to be referencing this here for just a second to figure out exactly when I need to swap frequencies. About halfway between DOOZI and the Level Island VOR, I'm going to swap frequencies. So half of 98 is 49. So 49 miles from Level Island is when I want to switch frequencies here. So let's swap nav2 to make the Level Island VOR active on nav2, and that way I can keep an eye on my DME readout to Level Island there. Actually, we'll wait until we're maybe about 30 miles to Level Island before we swap frequencies. I think we're good for now. Okay, coming up on 13,000 feet there. As we come up on 13,000, we'll go ahead and turn on our superchargers to the high blower setting. So there's about 13,000 superchargers to the high blower setting. And you'll see a jump in manifold pressure there. Right now, the flight engineer is controlling the throttles. If I were controlling it manually, I'd back off the manifold pressure first before turning on the superchargers, the high blower setting. But I think we're good for now. The other thing I got to remember to do is, it's kind of a big deal with this airplane, is it's got a really interesting fuel tank set up, and you got to make sure the fuel is always balanced out properly among all the tanks. So what I'm going to do right now is actually run the two outboard get the fuel off the two outboard alternate tanks and the two inboard. Actually, you know what? I'm going to switch right now to all the outboard tanks. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So let's switch right now to all the alternate tanks. And I'm trying to balance this out as best I can. You know, what I could do right now, actually, I know what I'm going to do. I am going to run fuel off the two outboard alternates and the two inboard mains for right now. And what I'm trying to do is equalize the inboard, equalize all the main tanks and hopefully all the alternate tanks at the same time by doing that. Because right now we got more fuel in the two outboard alternate tanks than the two inboard alternates, and more fuel in the inboard mains than in the outboard mains. I'm trying to equalize all those with the current way I have the fuel pumps running. So great. Okay, 15,000 feet. We're coming up on 16,000. That's going to be our cruising altitude today. Artwork porn. Guten Abend to you, Artwork. Hope you're doing well. Night Shadow, is that accurate? That would be super cool if so. Yeah, I think it'd be really cool to see some PMDG aircraft in MSFS at some point in the near future. That'd be really, really awesome. By the way, folks, what are the audio volumes like for those of you in chat? I get the sense that the engine sounds might be a little overpowering. If that's the case, let me know and I can turn them down a little bit. I do love the sound of these old radials, but at the same time, you know, I wouldn't want them to be so loud that they overpower everything else, including my voice as well, right? Although some of you might be okay with that. All right. Leveling off here at 16,000, so I'm going to gently roll my pitch wheel down to start leveling off at 16,000. Thank you there, Anchor Jam and Night Shadow. That is fantastic. But Artwork, thanks for hanging out today, my friend. I hope you're doing fantastic there in your neck of the woods in Europe. Okay, coming up on 16,000 feet there. as we hit 16,000, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the altitude control button or switch there, and that'll level us off at 16,000. At this point, I'm going to let the aircraft accelerate to past 200 knots, and once the aircraft is settled at about 200 knots, then I'm going to have the flight engineer do our cruise checks and set cruise power. Okay, while that's happening, let's check on a couple of things. Let's check on our cabin pressurization system. It is doing what it's supposed to. By the way I understand it, because these birds, right, are now coming up on 70 plus years of age, right? These are 70-year-old airframes at this point, right? Because of that, a lot of these cargo operators these days, they actually fly relatively low, you know, where they don't have to pressurize the airplane when they're cruising. And the reason they do that is to avoid fatigue issues, right? You can imagine all these pressurization, depressurization cycles, if you climb to the kinds of altitudes I'm climbing to today, if you were to do these on 70-year-old airframes, right, you're risking fatiguing the airframe. And so in order to avoid that, you know, what they do these days, they fly them unpressurized at lower altitudes. And that way allow you to, you know, make the airframe, the life of the airframe last longer, if you will. So what I'm doing right now, I'm only doing it because it's a sim, obviously. But in real life, they would be flying it well below altitudes that you need to pressurize the deck. Okay, the other thing I want to do is check on my fuel balance here. So far, we're doing okay. I think I can run it off my current setup for probably the next 2 or 3 minutes. So that's great. And let's go ahead and have our flight engineer there do our cruise settings and set cruise power. So that's what he's doing right now, and that's fantastic. Okay, let's check on how far away we are from the level island VOR. We're about 30 miles out, so let's go ahead at this point and swap frequencies to level island. So I'm going to tune in 116.5 on standby nav 1 there, and I'm going to swap my autopilot lateral mode to the gyropilot mode. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and swap my nav 1 there to put level island in active. Frequency is 116.5. Just confirm we're getting the correct DME readout. Indeed we are. And what we want to do is we want to fly the 128 radial inbound to level island. The reciprocal of 128 is 308. So I'm going to put that in the OBS there, 308. And let's go into localizer mode, or, you know, VOR lock mode, really, on the autopilot. Fantastic. And now we're tracking the 128 radial inbound to level island. So we're continuing on that same airway we were on earlier, the 317 airway. All right, fantastic. Artwork says, Guten Tag, you were put in quarantine for a week because they mistook a flu for COVID. Oh man, that's, yeah. Well, I'm glad you don't have COVID though, Artwork. But besides that, you're doing well. That is fantastic to hear there, Artwork. I am doing fantastic, as best as one can. I took a bit of a break from streaming, by the way, just because I really did not have the time. Plus, I actually had a little bit of travel the past couple of weeks related to work, which was actually really, really nice. And it looks like things are sort of getting a bit more back to normal for me personally. So I think there's going to be a lot more time passing between streams for me in the future. So I'm glad, though, to have a bit of time to get back to streaming, albeit this one is going to be a relatively short one. Okay, cruise power set. We're at 16,000 feet, 24 miles from the level island VOR. And let's figure out when we want to start our descent here. So this airplane, by the way, for whatever reason, you want to descend at a very, very shallow rate, about 500 to 600 feet per minute. So I want to start my descent super early. So let's talk about that for a second and what that might look like. So I'm going to pull the iPad back up. So right now, right, we're on the Victor 317 airway. we got another 30 miles to Level Island. Once we get to Level Island, we've got another, let's see, 51 miles, I think, to the Sisters Island VOR. Yeah, about 51 miles, I think. And then at Sisters Island, we're going to anticipate the LDA X-ray runway 8 approach. So the initial approach fix is actually going to be very, very conveniently Sisters Island VOR. And you see the minimum altitude there is 5,600 with no procedure turn from Sisters Island. So I'm going to plan on being at Sisters Island at 6,000 feet. So currently we're at 16,000. I want to lose 10,000 feet of altitude before I get to Sisters Island. So if I'm going to descend at, let's say, 500 feet per minute, and I want to lose 10,000 feet, I got to start my descent about 20 minutes out from Sisters Island, approximately. So let's go ahead and tune in the Sisters Island VOR in nav 2. It's 114.0 is the frequency. 114.0, that's tuned in. Okay, and let's take a look at our DME readout here at Sisters Island. We got another 142.8 miles and 40 minutes to go to Sisters Island. Let me make sure I got that tuned in correctly. 114.0 and 40 minutes, 39 minutes now. Okay, so about 20-25 minutes out from Sisters Island is when I'm going to start my descent, so I'm going to keep that in mind. And the other thing I can do right now actually is put in Sisters Island in standby nav 1 as well, and I'm going to put in the localizer frequency 109.9er in standby nav 2. Okay, there we go. It's always good to get things set up as early as possible, right? Especially when you've got a super intense set of things to manage and juggle as you come in on the approach here. Okay, that's all looking good to me. Oh yeah, Anchor Jam, that does look pretty good. The FS Labs Sharklet thing, although I am a little bit concerned, to be honest, about what the pricing is going to be. You know, and I don't like the fact that it sounds like the EFB update is only going to be available for those who pick up the Sharklets. Kind of like, you know, the way PMDG made the EFB available for the 777 only if you picked up the 7s, only if you picked up the 200ER. For that ridiculous $77.72 price tag for the 777 200ER, right? By the way, have you all noticed how nobody seems to be flying that on streams anymore? Yeah, so I'm sure that was a huge commercial success for PMDG with that price tag, right? But anyway, I'm hoping they price that FS Labs prices the Sharklets a lot more reasonably, you know. But I guess we'll see what happens. Either way, the trailer looked really good. I watched Black Box 711's stream, or the VOD of the stream when I had the time, with the FS Labs folks, and yeah, it looks really, really good. Honestly, I'm excited for it for sure. Yeah, it might be Night Shadow, and I'm hoping not though, because the PMDG pricing was just ridiculous. You know, it wasn't based on anything real. Okay, let's give you some cinematic shots here. Let's hide the iPad away for now. Actually, one second, hold on. How close are we to... We're getting pretty close here to Level Island, actually, if you look at the DME readout. So we're going to come up on the cone of confusion here in just a hot second. So what I'm going to do is, as we get closer here, I'm going to go into... gyro pilot mode on the autopilot right now, and I'm going to tune in the outbound course from Level Island on the Victor 317 airway. The outbound course is going to be 306, so just 2 degrees left. And as we get closer to the VOR, obviously, probably about 2.5 to 3 miles out is my guess, we're going to enter the cone of confusion. So we're going to see the CDI indication disappear, and once we're out of the cone of confusion, we're going to pick up the the signal once again. So we're just going to wait on that here. But I gotta tell you, as challenging as this is, I am loving this sort of like old school, VOR navigation here. Once again, I don't have any help at all from like a. Oh boy, I forgot to. Oh, I'm gonna swap tanks here in a second. But I don't have any help if I need it later from the GTN 650. Which can be installed on the PMDG DC-6, but I removed that because I didn't want to crutch the lead on today. Okay, coming up on the cone of confusion here in just a couple more seconds, I think. You can see the course deviation increasing there as the needle gets more sensitive the closer in we get to the VOR. And at some point that indication should disappear entirely. We'll see what happens. Actually now, yeah, so now we're in the cone of confusion. I'm going to turn slightly left here. There we go. And let's go ahead and level out. And there we go. We picked up the signal on the other side. Fantastic. Okay, just going to wait on that needle to center. As it centers, I'm going to enable localizer or VOR loc mode in the autopilot. And now we should be tracking. We should be tracking that radial outbound. Hopefully. There are some limitations with the autopilot I've noticed, so I got to keep that in mind. Let's try and recenter that needle. I'm going to turn slightly right here. Night Shadow. Oh, hold on one second. Sorry, folks. What the? What is going on with the autopilot? Why did it suddenly turn us so much? I'm not sure what just happened. Did the autopilot disconnect? Yeah, no, it's still connected. What's going on? Okay, I don't know what the hell just happened. The autopilot went haywire there. Okay, gyro piloting. Let's get the gyro pilot on again. There we go. Altitude control on, and let's go into localizer mode in the autopilot. Nope, it's not doing what it's supposed to. Hold on. We've had autopilot difficulties with this airplane before, so this is not pretty. Let's turn left here to try and re-intercept that radial. For whatever reason, it started turning a hard right there, even though I didn't have the autopilot set up to do that. So I don't know what the hell was going on. That's super strange. We'll turn left another 10 degrees there to try and re-intercept that radial outbound. And I'll talk about that descent planning here in just a hot second there, Night Shadow. So for this airplane, Night Shadow, because it's a geared radial engine, you want the... I think the way it works is you don't want the gear mechanism to be overstressed. So you always want to keep a little bit of power in during the descent. You know, I used to think that you wanted the descent at a very shallow rate in this airplane to avoid shock cooling the engines. It turns out it's actually related to the way this engine is geared. At least that's my understanding. I could be completely wrong. For folks that know the DC-6 better, let me know what the real sort of deal is. But my understanding is because you always want a little bit of, you always want to maintain power during the descent in order to avoid overstressing the gear mechanism. What you do is you descend at a very, very shallow pace at about 500 to 600 feet per minute. So because of that, you know, I want to lose 10,000 feet of altitude, right? So I want to hit Sisters Island VOR at 6,000 feet, and currently we're cruising at 16,000. So I want to lose 10,000 feet of altitude. So if I'm going to descend at 500 feet per minute, right? 10,000 divided by 500, that gives me 20 minutes required in order to descend 10,000 feet. So because of that, I'm keeping an eye on my DME readout from the the Sisters Island VOR. Currently, we're 112 miles from Sisters Island, and we've got 31 minutes to go to get to Sisters Island. So what that means is about 5 to 10 minutes from now, I'm going to start my descent at 500 feet per minute down to Sisters Island. And by the way, I mentioned there's so much to juggle on this airplane. Right now I'm going to switch tanks here. So I'm going to switch the inboard fuel. I'm going to switch the inboard alternate tanks as well. Because if you look up top at the fuel quantity indicators for all the tanks, I'm about equalized between all 4 main tanks and all 4 alternate tanks, which is exactly what I want. So now I can run fuel off of all 4 alternate tanks for the rest of the cruise. And once we've descended a little bit and we're within range of the localizer for the Juneau LDA approach, we'll go ahead and switch back to the main tanks and run off the main tanks for the approach and landing. So that's what that looks like. All right, fantastic. We got another 5 to 10 minutes to go before we start our descent. Let's give you some cinematic shots here, and I'll catch up on chat. Yeah, Night Shadow and Anchor Jam, it really does. And by the way, I think the autopilot on this thing has a lot in common with the autopilot on the DC-6. You know, it's a really, really old school Sperry autopilot. You know, all it has is like a turn knob. So once I'm in gyro pilot mode, I use the turn knob to turn the airplane to the direction I want to put it in, and then level the wings, right? Localizer mode is really VOR localizer mode, so that allows me to track VOR radials and localizer courses. And approach mode sorta kinda lets me track glide slopes as well for an ILS approach. But I say sorta kinda because every experience I've had with this has been bad. It does the most terrible job of tracking glide slopes. So I usually have to fly glide slopes manually. But hey, what can you do? All right, let's keep an eye on that DME readout there to Sisters Island. About halfway between Level Island and Sisters Island is when I'm going to swap frequencies. You know, I just realized that oh, there it is. Okay, I was trying to let me show you what I'm doing here. I was trying to figure out what the hell the distance was between these 2 VORs on the Victor 317. Let me show you what I'm up to. So Level Island is down here, right? That's that VOR. And this is where we are. We're the magenta arrowhead between Level Island and Sisters Island on the Victor 317 airway. And I was trying to figure out the full length. And this is why I can't stand the way Navigraph does low and Drew charts. You gotta zoom in before it'll give you the full distance readout between the two. So I was confusing the 51 for the full distance. In reality, the full distance is 124. So what does that tell me? That tells me halfway between those 2 VORs is when I want to switch frequencies to the Sisters Island VOR. So 124 divided by 2 is 62. So 62 miles out from Level Island, or 62 miles away from Sisters Island, is when I want to switch frequencies. So there we go, got that. A lot of mental gymnastics when you're flying old school like this. But thank you all for hanging out. I hope you're all doing amazing. Let me catch up on chat here within the next 5 minutes. Fly RC says time to get back into the Connie. You know, the Connie has an even worse GPS or not GPS. The Connie has an even worse autopilot. For the life of me, I cannot deal with a Connie autopilot. You know, all the Connie autopilot is essentially, instead of flying manually, all you're doing is controlling the trim tabs, right, on the different control surfaces. So honestly, working the autopilot on the Connie is actually even more stressful than hand flying the Connie, at least in my experience. The Sperry autopilot that comes with the Connie it actually requires even more work to operate than just hand flying the airplane the whole way. That's true, Night Shadow. Connie is older. Yeah, that's true. All right. Let's see. What did I miss here? I know I missed a ton earlier. Artwork, I am not. I'm still in kind of a lower risk age group, right? I'm in my mid-30s, actually early to mid-30s. So I am not yet vaccinated, but it's gonna come soon. I will be vaccinated pretty soon. Yeah, totally, Night Shadow. Ready to travel as soon as the restrictions are lifted. Absolutely. Anchor Jam says, you think the FS Labs devs said they were considering some interesting ideas price-wise? Yeah, you know, I wouldn't mind, for instance, if they gave us an option to buy the EFB separately, you know, for a lower price. I wouldn't mind that at all. But I don't think they were able to do that with the Sharklets, unfortunately, is my guess. But I guess we'll see what happens, you know. See, the problem is, I am such a sucker for the FS Labs at this point that I'm probably going to buy it anyway. Regardless of how badly they price it, I'm probably going to pick it up anyway. Because I'm such a sucker for the labs, you know, I love it so much. But we'll see, you know, it depends, I guess, on the price. If it's too high, maybe not. Totally, Night Shadow, it is a beautiful aircraft for sure. Oh, and Night Shadow, I actually did not know that about you. I didn't know you worked in healthcare. Thank you, by the way. You know, I feel it's important in this day and age to celebrate healthcare workers the same way we celebrate our military service members and veterans. You know, folks in your community are making massive sacrifices. You know, not just in terms of, you know, health risks and lives lost in the healthcare community itself, but just in terms of, you know, so much, like the psychological demands, the stress, you know, the demands on family, all that stuff over the past year has just been so great for the healthcare community. And this is coming, by the way, from someone who has 2 doctors as parents. Thank you for your service there, Night Shadow. I did not know you worked in the healthcare world. You push tons of paper. Still. Do you work in a hospital proper, or do you no more hands-on with patients for you? Well, good for you there, Night Shadow, with everything that's going on. Good for you. Okay, we're coming up on our top of descent here. Let's go ahead and start our descent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my flight engineer to run my descent checks. So he's going to set 26 inches of manifold pressure, and I'm going to turn off my altitude control there, and I'm going to roll my pitch wheel down to start descending at about 500 to 600 feet per minute. And we'll maintain a descent rate of 500 to 600 feet per minute. There we go. That's good enough. And while that's going on, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my pressurization control there to initiate our descent down to about sea level, right? Because Juneau is pretty much at sea level, and it's a very high pressure day, I believe, in the Alaskan Panhandle. So that's set, and you can see that the pressurization system is doing what it's supposed to. The cabin has started the pressurization system is setting up the cabin pressurization for the descent there. So that's looking good. All right, awesome. Let's take a look at our fuel tanks up top. Fuel quantities are looking great. Let's make sure we're still running off the alternate tanks. Indeed we are. That is great. All right. Okay, we're doing fantastic here. 20 minutes out from Sisters Island there. You can see the DME readout, 78 miles, 22 minutes out. By the way, that 78 miles is slant range, obviously. Got to keep that in mind. And ground speed calculated about 215 knots. So that's looking good. So about 62 miles out from the VOR, we're going to go ahead and start, or we're going to go ahead and swap frequencies between Level and Sisters Island. So that's going to be our plan. Night Shadow, absolutely. Out of curiosity, how many folks in chat have the A2A Connie, and how many folks have the this aircraft right here, the PMDG DC-6? Just generally curious what the split is, if there even is a split, between folks who own the Connie versus folks who own this aircraft here. I love them both. I've actually got them both, and I love them both. Although the Connie is even more of a handful in my view. It's a real handful. The Connie to me actually feels a bit more alive, to be honest. You know, A2A does such a masterful job of making some of these older birds feel much more lived in, you know, like feel much more alive than PMDG does. So in terms of the way it sounds and the way it flies, the way it feels, I actually think I prefer the Connie a bit, despite my strong aversion to the Connie autopilot. And I don't think I've ever had a good landing in the Connie. Every single one of my landings in the Connie has been just absolutely horrifically bad. Anchor Jam says, speaking of Navigraph from a few minutes ago, you still can't believe they acquired SimBrief. Yeah, you know, I'm even more surprised that they're keeping it free. So that was a bit of a surprise to me. I thought that they would start charging for SimBrief, but it's good that they're keeping it free for now. That is fantastic. All right, folks. I think we need to start planning on our approach here. So let's go ahead and pull up the weather at Juneau real quick. Let's see what that's doing. Oh boy. Yikes, it's super marginal at Juneau. So the winds are out of the west, southwest actually, 240 at 7 knots. Visibility is 8 statute miles. Light snow. Few clouds reported 1800, and ceilings broken at 3200, and overcast at 6500. Temperature 0, dew point -5, altimeter is 3055. Let's go ahead and set our altimeter first of all, and let's talk about why this is so marginal. Yeah, this is super marginal right now, and let me show you why. I'm going to pull up the LDA X-ray for Romeo 08. Okay. So this is really, really marginal. If you look at the LDA X-ray for Romeo 08 and you look at the MDA, what is the MDA? 3,200 feet. Airport elevation at Juneau is 26 feet, and ceilings were reported broken at 3,200. so this is super marginal. And the problem with active sky is I've noticed active sky tends to they tend to have ceilings rendered a bit lower than they were actually reported in the METAR. So I might have to play around with custom weather a little bit. We'll see what happens. I might go below minimums just for fun because I want to keep the stream length relatively short. If I had more time, we might even do like a missed approach and a diversion to like Gustavus or something, because Gustavus is just like 20 or 30 miles away. Like it's super close, and it looks like the... Let's take a look at the weather at Gustavus. Yeah, it's definitely about minimums at Gustavus. But I don't have the time for that, unfortunately, today. So I might either do custom weather or descend through minimums tonight. We'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm not sure just yet. I'm hoping the ceilings lift a little bit, but we'll see what happens. It's super marginal right now. Okay, let's brief the approach anyway. So we're going to do the... Oop, hold on one second. I got to swap frequencies. So let's go back into gyro pilot mode in the autopilot. There we go. And we'll swap frequencies to the Sisters Island VOR, 114.0. There we go. And we want to track the 125 radial inbound on the Victor 317 airway. So reciprocal of 125 is 305. So 305, that's tuned in, fantastic. And let's go back into VOR loc mode of the autopilot. And now we're tracking inbound on the 125 radial on the 305 course to Sisters Island. Fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and brief the LDA X-Ray 08. Okay. Let's tune in the localizer frequency 109.9er in standby nav 1, and let's put the localizer into active nav 2. And the identifier is India Juliet Delta Lima. Final approach course is 071. Let's brief the routing here from overhead Sisters Island. We're going to descend down to 5,600 feet. No procedure turn required from that initial approach fix to Sisters Island. We're going to proceed outbound on the Sisters Island. What is that? Oh, 007 radial. So we're going to proceed outbound to the 007 radial for 12.4 miles until we get to the Linz fix. And at Linz, we'll intercept the localizer. We can descend down to 3,700 feet at the final approach point of Barlow. And after Barlow, which is at 8 DME, we can descend down to the MDA. The MDA is 3,200 feet. Problem is, ceilings were reported broken at 3,200, so we're going to hope to get lucky and hit that MDA right as we get into a break in the clouds. And visibility minimum is 4 statute miles. The good news is the visibility reported is well above that. It's double that, 8 statute miles. This approach point is the Coughlin Island NDB, 2 DME from the localizer. I'm going to tune in the Coughlin NDB 212 here in the ADF, so give me a second to do that. So, 212. Let me tune that in. And we'll make that active. So that way we got our missed approach point on the ADF needle there. And we got a bearing to Coughlin Island, it looks like. That's fantastic. Okay, in case we need to go missed, which is a real possibility at Coughlin Island, in case we need to go missed, we're going to make an immediate climbing right turn at 5,600 feet on a heading of 310, and on the Coughlin Island NDB 251 bearing to intercept the Sisters Island 027 radial inbound direct to Sisters Island or the Elephant NDB. I'm going to tune in Elephant NDB here on the standby ADF. Give me a second. 391. Okay. And we'll hold there. So it's going to be right turns in the hold. And I think we're going to be making a parallel entry to enter the hold if we need to do that. ADF or DME required. Any go around after passing the missed approach point will not provide standard obstruction clearance. Good to note. When DGSI in-op procedure is not authorized at night, use the DME when on the LDA course. Cold temperature altitude correction required at or below -15. That does not apply to us. MSAs within 25 nautical miles, the Coughlin Island NDB, 6,500 feet to the northwest, 5,900 feet to the southwest, and 8,400 feet to the east. Okay. Obviously, it's an LDA, so we're going to have to make a turn to final there at low level. And, you know, the winds were out of the southwest, but it's still a pretty long runway. It's 8,857 feet long. You know, I'm kind of curious, because it could be fun. I've never tried this before. Do we want to do a circle to land 2.6? Or do we want to do a straight into 0.8 with a tailwind? I'm going to leave it up to chat. Should we do a straight into land 0.8 or should we do a circle to land 2.6? I mean, both approaches are fun and challenging. I'm going to plan on a straight in 0.8 just to keep the stream length relatively short. But in case folks want to see a circle to land 2.6, let me know and we might try that. That could be a ton of fun, especially in that super narrow valley, right? The fjord. leading into Juneau. Yeah, it depends on what folks want to see. If you want to see a circle to land 2.6, let me know. I would be game to try that, actually. Either case, whatever we do, we'll take taxiway Echo Charlie to the apron there. So that's going to be our plan. And that's our approach brief, folks. I think we're all done. Let's go ahead and hide the iPad away for now. Oh, I forgot to actually calculate my landing speeds. Give me a second here. Our current weight of the airplane, let's see. It's right up here. About 80, you know, let's assume like, let's assume 80,000. So target threshold speed is 100 knots. So I'm going to aim to cross the threshold 100 knots, but we'll approach probably at about 110, 120. Adam, of course, I figured I shouldn't have left it up to chat, but Adam says circle to land on 2.6 sounds fun. We might give that a shot. You know, if we can break out of the clouds, we'll give that a shot, actually. That could be a ton of fun. The only reason I'm open to it, by the way, is because the approach speeds in this airplane are so low that I think we should be okay, you know, flying it downwind and a circle to 2.6. I think that should be a ton of fun. So we'll give that a shot. James, too, hey, thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you next time, my friend. You take care. Absolutely, James. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you next time. Okay, we're doing great here. As you can see, we've been descending for the past 10 minutes, and we've only lost about 8,000 feet of altitude. Still got a ways to go. We're going to descend all the way down to 6,000 feet, and then we're going to level off at 6,000. All right. How's everybody in chat doing, by the way? Hope you're all doing amazing. So I'm not sure if anybody answered. Probably nobody does, it looks like. But how many folks have the PMDG DC-6, and how many folks have the A2A Connie? And between those two, what would your preference be if you have them both, out of curiosity? Always kind of curious to find out. All right. We got about another 29 miles to go to Sisters Island. And by the way, the minimum en route altitude for this airway here is 7,000. So we're actually going to level off at 7,000 because it looks like I started my descent a bit early. So we'll level off at 7,000. So that's what we'll plan on. And then once we get past Sisters Island, we can continue descending down to 5,600 feet. Once again, the problem with the Navigraph charts is I don't exactly know what countries sort of or what system they're using to you know, denote altitudes and other stuff like distances, etc. I'm so used to the FAA low and route charts that I don't quite know how to read these charts. I think that 7,000 is the minimum en route altitude for this airway, at least between Level Island and Sisters Island. So I'm going to level off at 7,000 here just to be on the safe side, so we don't end up going into terrain, right? Okay. I'm going to start leveling off here at 7,000. As we come up on 7,000, I'm going to engage the altitude control. Coming up on 7,000 there. Almost there, almost there. I really shallowed my descent a bit too much there. That's what happened. Okay, there's about 7,000, there we go. Altitude control engaged. And what I'm going to do actually is re-engage cruise power. So we'll set cruise power for now. Yeah, but that's not... Wait, is this Mocha or is this MEA? You know what? Tell you what. hold on a second. I am going to go to VFR map here, so give me a second here to pull that up. So let's go to the VFRmap.com and let's look at the actual FAA en route charts and figure this out, because this is annoying me. How do I get this? Oh, there we go. Okay, I got to get the low IFR chart. There we go. All right, where is Ketchikan? There's the Net Island. There's Level Island. There's Juneau. Okay, so I'm looking. Whoops. Wait, this is the low IFR chart. Indeed, it is. Okay, this is the Victor 317 airway. And oh, yikes, yeah. Well, actually, no, we're good. Minimum en route was 7,000. Mocha was 5,500. You see that right there? Minimum en route 7,000. Mocha 5,500 on the Victor 317, right? Because that's in black. And that's at this point, by the way, because we're past hoods at this point. And because we're past hoods, we can descend down to 7,000. Hold on a second. Am I past hoods yet? Oh, and that's the other thing I missed. There is a frequency swap over point there. That's not shown in the Navigraph charts. You know, I should have just referenced this chart here instead, because I'm flying Slant Alpha today. But I sort of should have swapped frequencies, 74 miles from level and 51 from Sisters Island. And minimum en route is 7,000, 5,500 is Mocha. At least I think that's what it is. You know, obviously, by the way, there's two MEAs here, right? Because it depends on which direction you're flying. If you're flying northwest, it's 7,000. If you're flying southeast on the airway, it's 9,000. But anyway, that's what we'll plan on. We'll stay at 7,000 as per the chart right here. All right, fantastic. Back to the streaming scene. So hopefully that clarified it. Fly RC, does that make sense? Did I get that right? Or in the heat of streaming, did I get that completely mixed up? Let me know. Ben Levy says, yep, exactly, Ben. But the question was, did I interpret that correctly? I think I did. The chart that we just looked at, did I interpret it correctly or not? That was correct. Awesome. Thank you, Ben. You know, when you're streaming, you never know if you're if you're just talking out the side of your mouth sometimes, because you're so busy monitoring like about a million other things, like chat, like what the airplane's doing. But yeah, thank you, much appreciate that. That's why I was wondering if I got that right or not. So we're good. We're at 7,000. We're where we need to be. At least I think we're where we need to be. 1 second. Let me go back to that chart. Yeah, we're where we need to be. We're good. We're good. Here's how I know that. Because, so the Hoods fix is 32 miles from the Sisters Island VOR. You see that right there, 32? 22 plus 10. We are currently, let me show you, we're currently, according to the DME readout there, we're 8.7 miles away, 8.5 now, from Sisters Island. So 7,000 is exactly where we want to be. So that's great. Did I say Levy or Levy? I forget now whether I got it right or wrong. So you're giving me credit for something I probably immediately got wrong there, Ben. Is it Levy or Levy? I'm assuming it's Levy, right? I don't know. Whatever it was I pronounced it as before, I'm probably pronouncing it the exact opposite way now. just too much going on. All right, so let's keep an eye on the DME readout there, because we're going to be entering the cone of confusion here in just a hot minute. And also, we want to track the 007 radial outbound. So I'm going to pull the iPad back up with the LDA X-ray chart on screen. I'm going to leave that up for the rest of the approach here. Okay, but now I forget which one it was, Ben. Which one was it? Is it Levy or Levy? Either case, we're coming up on the VOR, and we're going to be entering the cone of confusion here in just a hot minute. So I'm going to go back into gyro pilot mode, which essentially if I have the turn knob set up correctly, maintains my present heading. And what I'm going to do as we get closer and enter the cone of confusion is I'm going to tune in the 007 radial outbound. Pronounced like Levy. Got it. Okay, thank you. Much appreciated. The second. Okay, got it. Okay. All right, fantastic. Thanks for hanging out today, by the way. Much appreciated. It's always useful and helpful to have people who know stuff as well, so you're not, you know, sometimes in the heat of streaming you say things that are just completely inaccurate, right? And I try to avoid that as best I can. But anyway, there we go, coming up on the cone of confusion in just a hot second there. I'm going to set my OBS here to 007. Give me a second to do that. 007. There we go. That's set. And let's start turning right now to fly that radial outbound. I flew right past the deny. Indeed, I did. Let's go back into our descent checks. Actually, let's do our in-range checks. Oh, crap.
26 inches, please. Setting 26 inches.
Okay, and let's start descending down to 5,600 feet here. I sailed right through it because I wasn't planning properly there. We'll descend down to 5,600 feet, and let's do our descent. There we go.
Setting 26 inches.
DOOZI? I'm not sure. I haven't seen that name before, or maybe I'm not thinking of it anyway. I'm not sure. Do you, Ben? Do you have your own stream as well? I'm not sure. Oh boy. Okay, coming up on 5,600 feet in just a little bit here. Another 1,000 feet to go. My descent planning and approach planning was not the best in terms of having my flight engineer set things up here, unfortunately. Oh boy. Oh boy, this is tough. Let's do our in-range checks. Give me a second. There. And let's go ahead and level off here. Or not level off, but let's fly this heading until we pick up the VOR. The 007 radial outbound. Kick that first officer. Oh, that's awesome there, Ben. That's super cool. Oh, hold on. Oh, boy. I sailed right through that minimum altitude of 5,600 there because I wasn't paying enough attention. So we'll climb back up to 5,600. I had a little bit of a pilot deviation there. Yikes. Okay, there is the needle coming in, so let's go back into localizer mode. Let's go into, as we come up on 5,600, I'm going to go back into altitude control there. There we go. Okay, that's good. And let's go ahead and have our flight engineer stop controlling the throttle. That way, I can help slow the airplane down here. There we go. Okay, fantastic. And our DME readout right now is 9 DME. At some point, I'm going to want to swap frequencies to the localizer here real quick. Okay, let's actually do it right now. So let's go back into gyropilot mode. Okay, we'll turn right slightly, and let's go ahead and swap frequencies back to the localizer. 109.9er. Let's set our OBS needle to 071, or OBS course rather, to 071. There we go, and let's go ahead and turn right to intercept that localizer. Oof. Too much to do, just way too much to do. There's the needle coming in. Let's go ahead and go back into localizer mode and the autopilot. Fantastic. All right, there we go, intercepting the localizer now. We're gonna sail through it. We're gonna get back on it. Yeah. Okay, below 175 knots, I'm gonna drop flaps 10 there. And just to help us slow down a little bit. And let's go ahead and start descending down to the next altitude constraint of 3,700. Let's go flaps 20, below 174 knots. If I need to, I can drop the gear to get some drag as well, but I think I'm good for now. And let's try and lose some altitude here to head down to 3,700. Headwise, I contact the CTAF. am I going to get on the CTAF and just bare my soul to all the other pilots listening in on frequency, let them know that I'm a horrible, horrible slant alpha pilot tonight or this afternoon. I just can't seem to figure out what the hell I'm doing and do it well. Okay, here we go. We're doing well here. And by the way, I was super concerned about the ceilings, but so far this is looking promising. There are some gaps in the clouds here, and I can kind of make out the terrain, so I'm kind of hoping that I break out of this this layer of broken clouds here by the time we get to the MDA. Yeah, the weather has not changed at all, so that's good news. Let's descend a bit faster here, down to 3,700. Can someone offer emotional support? That sounds like exactly what you want to hear from a pilot on frequency, right? Somebody bawling their eyes out, expressing the need for some emotional support. And this is exactly when we could use some in-flight emotional support animals, right? Like, where's the golden retriever? We don't have a golden retriever on this airplane. All we have is this guy. All we have is our check captain. Let's check in with our check captain real quick. He's here to keep an eye on us. As always. That's our check captain for this flight. Check Captain Obvious. He's here to keep an eye on everything we're doing over the course of our flight today. Okay, coming up on 3,700. Actually, we're past Barlow there, so we're going to continue descending down to our MDA. The good news is we've broken out the clouds. I've got a visual, so we can continue through our MDA here. That's great. Okay, and I think I've got the gear coming down. Yeah, below 174 knots, I can drop the gear. That is great. So we're doing good. Just let the ostrich put some buttons. I might be missing that reference there. I'm missing something. What's that in reference to? I'm missing that reference. Ben, out of curiosity, what's your Twitch handle? I'm trying to think if I've seen your channel before on Twitch. Alright, but we're doing great here, though. I've got the approach, the lead-in lights in sight there, and the winds are still out of the southwest. To tell you what, we'll do what we planned on. We'll have a little bit of fun doing our circle lane approach to runway 26. Famous last words.
20 flaps set. Mistress Ridge, please. Alter Ridge.
Really? Really? An ostrich is an emotional support animal? That sounds kind of dangerous, actually.
Gear up and down.
You know, it's like the weirdos that want to marry snapping turtles, right? You know it's going to end badly. You know it's going to end not just badly, you know it's going to end with severed appendages, right? Why would you do that? Why is that even a thing? Okay, let's go ahead and disconnect the autopilot here. Let's go ahead and disconnect the autopilot.
500 RPM set.
Yup, exactly. Your average controller? Hey, that's a fantastic Twitch handle. I love that Twitch handle. Okay, I'm gonna follow the lead-in lights until I'm right over the middle of this island here, and then we'll hang a right and fly downwind.
Call it call, set call. Before landing check is complete.
Actually, you know what? You know what? Disregard. I'm gonna fly it downwind right now. Okay, so we're going to turn it downwind. I'm going to descend down to 1,000 feet on downwind here. And let's drop flaps to... Actually, you know what? Let's leave flaps 20 for now. We'll drop it at flaps 30 on downwind. Flight engineer and co-pilot doing the before landing checklist there. Gear is down and locked. Flaps set to 20. We'll drop it all the way down to 50. And our threshold crossing speed is about 100 knots. Fantastic. Okay, and let's go ahead and hide the approach blade away. Don't need that anymore. All right.
Down to 587, resume normal speed.
Wait, what? A circling IAP? What are you talking about? We're good, we're good. Circling is authorized for us. Yeah, we're good. With our approach category, we're all good. Oh, is that right, Knight? That is fantastic. Yeah, I'm rooting for Hideki Matsuyama to get the green jacket. I think that'd be fantastic. Yeah, he was 11 under at the close day yesterday, correct? So 13 under, man. What's the next closest score out of curiosity as of right now? Who's chasing him? And how many holes does he have left? It is a beautiful scenery for sure, Ben. This is such a beautiful part of the country. You know, I should have stretched my downwind out a little bit here. Let's go flaps 30. So who's chasing Matsuyama at the moment at the Masters? But yeah, I'm really rooting for him to win. He's a good guy. And actually, I'm not sure if someone from Japan has ever won the Masters or a major before. Has Matsuyama won a major before? Not sure. Okay, let's go ahead and start descending here. I'll fly downwind here, or extend my downwind just a little bit. Oh, this is such a good view. Such a cool view right there. -7, holy cow. How many holes does he have left to go? Because it sounds like if he's -13 and the next closest is -7, he's pretty much a shoo-in unless he pulls the Rory McIlroy from a few years ago, right? God, I felt so bad for Rory when that happened to him. Actually, no, we'll leave flaps 30 until we're on final. There we go, turning base here. This is great, I'm loving this. This is such a fun approach. Schaffel is -8, got it. Okay, let's turn final. Probably getting a bit low there. Let's go flaps 40. And once I'm on final, we'll go flaps full. I've never actually tried the circle to land 2.6 at Juneau before. This is actually a ton of fun. Sort of doing a dogleg here to the final, but that's fine. This is a really fun approach. Okay, 110, and then I'll bleed off speed once I know I've got the runway made. Lots of trim needed here. This is super fun, I gotta tell you. I'm enjoying this. Okay, let's go ahead and bleed off some speed. Flaps 50, gear down and locked. We're good to land here. 100 knots. We're threshold crossing. And I don't want to cut the power all the way to idle or this is going to drop like a rock. So about 15 inches manifold pressure and let's bleed off some speed here. We're going to float a little bit. There we go, touchdown. Let's get on those brakes. I think I landed kind of flat. We'll find out in the replay. Matsuyama is on 13. Got it. Okay. On 13 at -13. Yeah, unless he has like a massive collapse, I think he's got it made, you know. But don't want to jinx it, obviously. And just as we touch down, the snow starts up again. All right, folks. That was fun. That worked out really well. I enjoyed that one. Let's go and get the flaps up. Other than that, though, I'm not going to have the co-pilot go through the after landing flows just for the replay. We'll just taxi to the ramp, and then we'll jump straight into replays. This is Orbx's Juneau scenery, by the way. Actually, all the sceneries on the flight today were from Orbx. So Orbx, Southern Alaska region, Orbx, Ketchikan, Orbx, Juneau. And if you had time, and we wanted to divert to Gustavus, that would have been other Orbx scenery as well. I think Orbx has the monopoly on good Alaska area sceneries, in P3D at least. We'll find out how good or bad that landing was. I have a sneaking suspicion that landing was super flat. That landing was probably something you never want in a trike, with just a 3-point landing. For very, very good reasons, you never want to do a 3-point landing in a trike.
370 for Alaska 94.
Kunwani, Gondway, how's it going? Thanks for hanging out today. Yeah, we should probably hold off on any praise for the landing until we see what that actually looked like in the replay. I suspect it was not that great. Trying to figure out where the hell I'm going to park. I'm going to park on the right of the newer Alaska Cargo 737 there. Correction, the left of that Alaska 737. And I'm going to try very, very hard here not to bang into anything. Holy cow, that's not a lot of clearance, is it? Where's a marshaller when you need one? Okay, I think we're okay. I think we're okay. It's a Gulf Stream there that I miraculously avoided damaging the radar and the NOSCO enough. Okay, we'll just park right here. I think I'll pull forward just slightly. Artwork, hey, thanks for hanging out, my friend. We'll catch you next time. Super fun having you. You take care over there in Europe, my friend. Okay, there we go. All right, replay time. All right, just gonna pull up ChasePlane, pull up replays, and let's check out some replays of that landing. All right, everybody, this was super fun. I really enjoyed this. Thank you all for hanging out. We'll check out a few different views, and then we'll close out with the final replay, obviously. Okay. You know, I'll save the full replay for the outro with the circuit of lane and all that stuff. Let's just watch the touchdown first. We'll see. I mean, it was kind of sloppy on my part, to be honest. That was kind of a really sloppy traffic pattern. But boy, I gotta tell you, we're super lucky that the visibility dropped on us right after we touched down. Because this has probably been below minimums here. This is probably right below 4 statute miles in terms of visibility, which was the visibility minimum required for that approach. Yeah, so this airplane, by the way, tends to come in kind of low-slow on approach, and you kind of got to bleed off that speed in order to touch down mains first. Oh, not too bad, actually. I did touch down mains first. It was a very, very flat-ish attitude at touchdown, but not bad at all. I'm actually pleased with that one. I thought I touched down completely flat, but that actually worked out really well. I did land mains first. Nice. Okay, let's check out a tower view next, and then we'll check out the patented DJ Aviator belly cam shot after that. This approach looks really fun in the snow, doesn't it? Need that belly view? Absolutely, nice shadow. That's going to be next, right after the tower cam right here. We're going to do belly cam. It looks like it's moving in slow motion, doesn't it? Yeah, it wasn't buttery, but I don't mind. It was pretty good. Alright, belly cam next. There we go. That's the view we want. Alright. Let's bring this back a ways, actually. We'll start off right here. Oh, it's nice. The replay actually remembers, ChasePlane actually remembers my flap settings during the various stages of the pattern and the approach. That's nice. Ben, I'm gonna check you out on Twitch because I'm pretty sure I've seen your channel, the one you mentioned every once in a while. I don't think I've ever actually watched one of your streams before though, so I'm gonna make sure to check it out. Thanks for stopping by today, Ben. Much appreciated. Ben, out of curiosity, I'm not sure if I caught this already, but where did you say you controlled again? You said you're C1 working on your PPL. Oh, you're working on PPL as well. Whereabouts in the country, if you don't mind me asking, are you currently doing your flight training? I learned to fly in Indiana when I was going to school at Purdue way back in the mid-2000s. And that was interesting. It's a far cry from the kind of landscape that I do my real-world flying in these days. But Indiana and Purdue in particular was a super fun place to learn how to fly. Just absolutely loved it. That is if you're still on, Ben. I'm not sure. All right. We'll watch this replay and then we'll close out with the final replay and our outro and all that stuff. All right, just gonna set up my credits here as usual. All right, let's see how this goes, or how this went, rather. Fly RC, thanks for hanging out. I'm glad you enjoy them. I enjoy having the company. You know, I just do this for fun, right? So without the company, it wouldn't be anywhere near as much fun, right? As the great Dane Flats on Twitch likes to say, right? We do this for the company. And what's the other Dane Flats line that's super famous? It's 1,000 times better. Not 10, not 100, 1,000 times better. It's actually totally true, by the way. Having folks that enjoy the hobby as much as you do does indeed make this a significant amount better. So yeah, not exactly a buttery landing, but then again, I wasn't really going for that anyway. All right, should we do a Ving view? Let's do a Ving view next, and then we'll close out with one final replay. And I love these old radials, by the way. It's really quite something to think of the fact that these are pretty much the exact same double WASP engines that you found on the F4U Corsair and the Hellcat and the P-47 as well. You know, it's the exact same engine for the most part, with some obvious modifications, obviously. But man, these are really, really amazing engines. 18 cylinders. They sound like $1,000,000. Amazing engines. Night Shadow says, as a member of the company, you love it. A member of which company? Dane's company or my company? But he's got a great channel though on Twitch for sure. There's a reason they call him the godfather of Flight Sim Twitch, right? He's been doing this for so long, it's pretty much in his blood. Mine, okay, got it. At least margarine, exactly. I can't believe it's not butter, right? That's what it was. You know, I gotta tell you, I'm a little bit upset that the snow only popped in right after he touched down. I kind of wish we had the snow when I was actually in the pattern. That would have been a lot more fun and exciting. Okay, let's jump back to this side here. What do you guys think of the sound modeling of the double WASP engines? I think they sound really, really good. I think they sound amazing. All right. Yeah, it's not bad at all. And this is a really nice view, I agree. I'm trying to think if there's any more shots I want to do before we jump into one final replay. Oh, hold on one second. We're just going to do one other replay here real quick. And that's from this angle right here. I just want to see what it looks like when that nose gear came down. And I want to see whether or not I did a proper crosswind correction here. It was a slight crosswind, not a lot. I am misaligned, as you can tell. Ha! My nose actually came up a couple of degrees, like about a degree or two. And then it came back down. Okay. Not bad, all things considered. Alright, folks. Let's cue up some outro music. We'll do a final replay with some cinematic shots as we go out for the evening. And we'll call it a day. Alright, folks. Hey, I can't thank you all enough for hanging out. This was super fun. Really enjoyed hanging out with all of you. As always, you know, in the day and age... Sorry, one second. I'm trying to figure out when to start the final replay. Let's see. So 250 was a timestamp on the touchdown. Think about... Oh, what the... Okay. Let's bring it back to about here. You know what? We'll bring it back to about here. Should do it. Okay. As always, folks, the day and age of coronavirus and the pandemic and everything, I hope you all stay safe, stay healthy, wear a mask when you go outdoors. You know, keep your friends and family safe and healthy. Get your shot whenever that becomes available to you. And I guess we'll hope to catch you in the next one. You know, as usual, I'm never sure when I'm going to be able to stream next. Hopefully next weekend, but honestly, I'm not sure. It might be a couple weeks from now, if at all. But we'll have to see. Things are sort of like resuming a bit more back to normal for me, and so getting to do these streams, I think, is going to become a lot harder, unfortunately, in the next few weeks to months. But I'm hoping, you know, I'll be able to stream again sometime soon and hang out with you fine folks once again. But in the meantime, Jado72, Night Shadow, everybody that hung out tonight, this was super fun. Can't thank you all enough for hanging out. Let's pull up some outro music, and we'll look forward to catching you in the next one. I guess we'll see you when we see you, whenever the next one is, right? We'll catch you next time. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Blue skies, tailwinds. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
level 330, polar 654 heavy.